Yo, what's up, man?
Yo, what's going on?
Yo, so you went to Jordan Belfort's Mastermind, that was like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like how many nights? It was like you spent 20 grand, right, to be there.
Yeah, it was when it was all said and done it was 15.
Okay.
But yeah, people in that room spend anywhere from 20 to 25 grand. They gave me a little bit of a haircut because I did a pass thing with Jordan at like a
Okay.
live event.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was for 3 nights. It was supposed to
Yeah.
schedule for
So
3 nights.
it was originally the actual event itself is 2 nights, 2 days. It was like the
Okay.
night before. Yeah, so like it doesn't really count. The night before was just like drinks, and then 2 actual full days of masterminding.
Okay. Yeah, and you already did some with Jordan. That was from a past live event, right? Like, can you explain a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, I think one thing, and this would be good to people listening too, is I think sometimes people think that once you have a business and you have a model and you're doing well, like that's it. And, for all of us, like we're always going and, investing in ourselves, learning, taking in new information. So it was just a conference in New Orleans, a marketing conference, by people who, kind of respect, and we kind of know kind of indirectly through the group. And I was there, and one of the speakers they hired to speak for an hour at this event was Jordan Belfort. So in that kind of process, I got to talk to him, and it ended up turning from what was supposed to be a 5-second encounter turned into a 20-minute full-on conversation with him then. And that led to him giving me kind of his kind of a lot of people in his circle, just their information, and then it kind of circled back 8 months later, to me doing this private mastermind, so to speak.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So like 8 months ago, you were at this conference, and the conference hired Jordan Belfort, and you actually had a chance to like talk to Jordan one-on-one for like 20 minutes, and he gave you some insights.
Yep.
And you've been kind of following his material, like sales training, sales kind of material for a while now.
Yeah.
And then he kind of made an impression on you at that conference, right? It's just
100%. There's I think what's interesting about all people, especially the people who are very successful, is there's always certain elements that you just resonate with, and there's these certain things with Jordan, kind of the positive things of how the way he articulates words, the way he, his energy. There's certain things like that resonate with me, and I think he kind of saw the same thing. And so it was just interesting. It was interesting that I did not expect. I was talking to him more out of admiration, and I didn't expect that to turn into anything kind of. I didn't realize that he thought likewise, that there was some kind of value there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's something to how he articulates words. He's just very good at, like, talking is his thing, like, clearly.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so you guys kind of hit it off, and then like 8 months later, their team kept following you up about this mastermind, and you decided to pull the trigger. Just there is power to being around other successful people, and I mean, 15 grand is a big price tag, but I mean, there's something to being able to pull that trigger, right?
Right. I actually do want to talk on that, really quick, because one of the biggest things that it was one of the best things I did, even outside of the mastermind itself, and we'll get into that. But one of the things that's crazy is literally the last time I made like a really big investment in myself was in lead gen, in this, right? So you really think about it, and I kind of made this realization that, I've maxed out everything, all information, all people, all contacts, all skill sets within the current, crop of kind of investment and where I've been. And I just the 15 grand was more symbolic of, it was more literally, I could have given that 15 grand to anyone. Obviously there's a lot more benefits to this group, but there's something symbolic for me about that was, hey, now that I make, exponentially more income than I did 5 years ago. I need to make do kind of an investment that scares me. And that number was scary for 2 days. This is not a lifelong access to coaching or something like that. This is 2 days and it's over, and that scared the crap out of me. So that was what made me ultimately do it. Funny enough.
Yeah, I mean, when you spend money like that, where you kind of get scared, you take things more seriously. And I was talking to you when you pulled that trigger. I was like, it's kind of hard to imagine if you're gonna get that value in 2 days for 15 grand. I was kind of a little bit doubtful too. But then, it turns out that you got tremendous value from going there and meeting Jordan face to face and spending time with them, which we can get into. Before we move further with, this Jordan's mastermind, what a lot of people might think is, he had that kind of controversial past. His movie showed that, and people might think, well, this guy screwed over a bunch of people in the past. Why would you ever want to learn from someone like that? Can you talk to me a little bit about, and I know Jordan, his story. He made a big comeback. Now he's helping people with sales training, but tell people a little bit about like what you saw in Jordan, or the ethics and morals.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where it's actually really fascinating, because from my upbringing, I grew up just complete polar opposite. I didn't drink alcohol until my 21st birthday, until it was legal to do so. I never dabbled in drugs or anything like that. Never, stole. And what I've learned, like obviously in the movie, what the story should be. That movie is not supposed to be a thing. It looks glamorous, but I think what people don't realize is that movie it kind of explains how when someone's ridiculously talented, which Jordan clearly is, talent can be wielded. It's like a weapon. A weapon. If you're protecting someone who's an intruder breaking into your home, trying to hurt your family and your kids, well, shooting that person and using that weapon is incredibly empowering, and it's important for survival. Well, going and then you look at the extreme case of some lunatic going and shooting up a school. That's obviously terrible, and that's what kind of in a lot of ways Jordan kind of showed, is that he took this gift, and I would probably say a lot of that was God given, or there's elements that he was just born with, just natural abilities to persuade and sell, and then just went off the rails. And then obviously drugs and these other chemicals that make you lose yourself, kind of compound into a whirlwind. But to see him go, what people don't know is the second half of the story, which is, out of everything he did, even in that movie, 5% of it, literally only the tail end of it, was when he financially he was doing something illegal, where it was insider trading, pump and dump. Most of that, like literally, and you can record. I did a lot of research, obviously, before I was going to go, spend a weekend with him. And it was a tail end of that, because the greed. When you start making money, there's a certain point where you say, okay, well, can I go to the next level properly, or do I take a shortcut? And he took the shortcut, and that led him to jail. But he's been sober for going on, I think, like 18, 20 years now. And it's been, and obviously today, I mean, it's crazy getting to see his business today. It's so on the other extreme. It's so extreme on the ethics and regulation side.
On his straight line persuasion coaching program, he repeats over and over again about ethics, how this is a great power to learn the straight line persuasion, to be able to learn to persuade people. When you can persuade somebody to buy something that helps them, you're actually empowering that person. You're able to, in that moment, remove their limiting beliefs to buy something that's going to help them. So you're actually empowering that person to make a purchase. But he repeats, this is a power, and you have to use ethics and morals at all times. With great power comes great responsibility. And so, that is at the core of what he teaches today. When he was younger, he just went a bit reckless with it. But, people can learn from mistakes, and that's why I kind of like his story, because it shows that.
Yeah, that was the biggest takeaway, is that even that room with 8 or 9 people, and like I said, wildly successful. I mean, I'm talking huge. When you're talking, people who have companies where they own 100% equity of, and they're doing $500 million a year. Like we're talking like really, really, really top of society. And to see even those people, how, 6 years ago they were bankrupt but nothing. And in 6 years, they created an idea from scratch to that size. Like that's how quick, things can change in people's lives, and how quick people, can bounce back. And so I think that was a good story, because it's another one of those things that you got to sell yourself to go to the next level is, hey, all these things that all these potential, things that people are afraid of, or what if this, what if that? Well, it's like, well, truthfully, there's actually not as much risk in business as one thinks. Like, it's not like you're, like a real adversity would be like you lost your arm or something. In business, it's like, okay, great, I lost some money. What, next, right? Let's go rebuild. And so it was cool. It was cool seeing that despite how crazy of a loss that was for Jordan, to see him bounce back from it and to do it correctly.
Well, that just goes to show that, being in business is all about your skills,
Right.
Because Jordan has the skills, he can go to zero and build, another business back up again, which is why it's so important to invest in your skill sets. But, so awesome. So, so the event was in LA, and you kind of the event started with that you kind of went straight to his house kind of thing, and
so the main event was actually, funny enough, now getting kind of knowing, it wasn't his main house. Unfortunately, Jordan, he separated from his wife like a month prior, so he was in a different mansion, but it was really beautiful. It was just an unbelievable house in Beverly Hills. So we started there early morning. I think it was like 8 a.m. And then it was literally an all day thing.
Right, and then there was about 8 other people at the event other than yourself. Eight
to 9 people, and I will say the quality, the caliber of people was unbelievable. There was I'm not going to get into it. There's one person who I would say was kind of maybe one person that you could kind of question if that group was maybe too high a level for one, but for everyone else it was unbelievable. I mean, there's out of those 8 people, 5 of those people made over $10 million a year income.
Wow.
And some of them had companies that were, I know one person in particular who, what was really cool is also getting to be friends with him, and we've even texted back and forth a little bit. But he runs a logistics company that does $500 million a year.
Wow.
And so, it was actually legit. The quality was out of this world, and the think was so big. And we're talking about people who, there's a guy who, went from, he runs a clinic that like helps people with diabetes. And just from last year to this year, he went from 3 clinics to like 54 clinics, all done, no franchises, all kind of run between him and his wife. And obviously there's investors, but that kind of growth, like big growth, like no one there was looking for a 10% increase in their business. It was like, how do I, 2x, 4x, 10x? Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So, did Jordan have like a set, like kind of agenda for the day, or was the first day kind of about just getting to know each other? And I mean, people know Jordan as the sales guy, right? But
right.
Not everybody, I'm sure, in that group is just looking for sales training at this point. This is more about taking your business to the next level and increasing the think, right?
Yeah. I'll actually, one thing, and this is, I'm happy you brought this up. The biggest misconception is that there is nothing about sales discussed. Jordan is actually way bigger strategy. There's people, I think, on the surface, obviously sales, but I've always said this, like the best business people, the best entrepreneurs, all of them have really high levels of sales ability, but not all sales people make that jump to being an entrepreneur or a high level business strategist. And so, Jordan, there's the only times we talked about sales, funny enough, was when I brought it up, because, when I had asked a question just from like the previous work I've studied of his, but none of it was that. It was getting to know each other. It was going round table, and like everyone, a lot of that was the first half of the day. It was like everyone going really deep in their business, like their challenges, like their kind of what's kind of the issues. And then the second half of the day was Jordan went to a little bit of his spiel, and then it was like more kind of problem solving. It was called Hot Seat, where basically Jordan would just grill you to the ground, like basically tear your business into shreds. Which was actually pretty awesome, because you can see a guy who literally has a $500 million a year company, like everyone was nervous. Like everyone would like it was just the funniest thing in the world to see grown men who are considered really successful in the eyes of society, like have a breakdown in front of Jordan, like mentally, nervous about when Jordan starts really digging into the business. So that was pretty insightful.
Right. Yeah. So, because Jordan has experience. He's not just a like his career is not just like training sales. I mean, he has experience. Right. Like he built his first like meat company, right, when he was a kid.
Yep.
He's built other companies before, other than Wall Street. After Wall Street, he built other companies. So, I mean, Jordan, at this point can provide not just sales insight, but plenty of like entrepreneurial insight. And talk to me a little bit about like, kind of like how he challenged you, like how he started like stretching your think. Like, was it like having bigger goals? Was it being more aggressive in business, or?
It was actually really it was so fascinating talking to Jordan, because we had kind of this, he looked, and he got a little bit younger to success quicker, and you can argue, and he would even tell you maybe that also hurt him in a way, right? Because there were certain foundational things that weren't there. But he basically told me the biggest thing that for me was actually trying to play, not going for the crazy big growth is actually what's hurting me.
My question to you is, I've now gotten to a point where I do well. Like this year, I'll make like 600, 610.
Right.
And I'm kind of hitting this wall of like keeping to the next level, staying motivated. Because you kept growing at a young age. Like, what kept you not getting that in that comfort? Because for me now, it's like I don't have the pain when I was broke in college. That hunger has kind of like disappeared a little bit, because I have enough money now to not need to worry. Right? I'm not retired or like anything close to that. Like I don't have that money, FU money, but just getting to that hunger level.
Yeah. Let me. I guess the short I guess the quick answer is that to be honest.
Please.
Brutal honesty. If I made $610,000 a year, I'd declare bankruptcy.
You would?
I have to declare bankruptcy. I'd have to declare my whole life, my whole adult life.
Right.
In other words, if I don't make my break even is like $4 or $5 million a year, just to even break even, where I can live a life that is like reasonable, and I'll still be short of cash.
Right.
So it's a question of standards.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
To you feel good right now making $600,000 a year. If I was making $600,000 a year, I'd be literally, I give my kids that much in allowances. Seriously, for better or worse. My point is that it's really, there's no right or wrong answer to how much money you need to be comfortable. There really isn't. Someone that makes $100,000 a year can be a lot happier than me and be fulfilled, right? So there's two things that work side by side. There's your vision for the future and your standards. So it seems to me like you have this vision for the future. Like you want more. You feel like you're capable of more, but yet you feel comfortable at $600,000.
Right.
Right?
Well, it's definitely.
Why don't you go buy a $3 million house and see how long you're comfortable with $600,000?
That's awesome. Okay, so that's a good point.
Why don't you go buy? No, here's the thing. Go buy a house. Go have a couple of kids. Okay. No, seriously. And get a wife who likes shoes and see how long. And by that I don't even mean that my wife works with me and runs my business with me. I'm just saying. But like life is expensive. Okay. And you need to reframe in your own mind. Okay, that if you really want to live a first-class life, that I think I know you're capable of it. Like $600,000 ain't gonna cut it, man. It's just not. Okay, if you're $600,000 is not $600,000. I don't know where you live. Where do you live?
I live in California.
Yeah, it's $300,000.
Yeah.
So you make $25,000 a month. Okay, my office. Well, let's just say my mortgage is $25,000 a month.
Right.
So on a zero, I have no money for food.
Right.
So you have to think differently.
Like I think that was the fascinating part was like it because I'm not it's that ultimatum, like, let's go. Just redlining is actually the solution. Is going way whatever you think so I was like saying what the numbers were, what I want to do, and it kind of follows ironically, and we can talk about the Cardone versus Belfort podcast if we want, but ironically the 10x principle of Cardone, there's a lot of truth to it. I think the context gets missed in that concept. The idea of whatever your goals are, 10 times that goal, because and 10 times the effort needed to get to that goal, because then you start thinking different, and that growth is what's going to fuel and motivate you to keep going. Where, like for me, a 10% increase in what I make, it doesn't really matter. It's not changing lifestyle one way or the other.
10% is not exciting enough of a exponential life change. It's not exciting enough for you to like wake up every morning, early in the morning, and like grind hard.
Right. Like the way like 5 years ago, where when I went from I think from 2015 to 2016, my income literally 20x. Like that was exciting. But then it's like, well, what stopped? Why did that thinking stop? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was basically the conversation. Like, why is it back then? And it comes down to, because we all, whether we like to pretend we do or not, we all have set standards, even if they're higher than normal, but it is based on society, it's based on people, it's based on certain things that we've put in. And so when I was a struggling college kid, I was not okay with that standard. There was a certain threshold, and I'll try not to talk specific numbers, but there's a certain threshold where that's considered, okay, now you're doing really well in the eyes of society, and this is comfortable and it has a good life. But these are all made up numbers. Like, truth be told, like in India, if you make $1,000 a month in India, you're actually considered very well to do. Like, you have a good life. Where in California, that doesn't even pay for a week worth of rent in the places we're at, right? So that I think that was a big one. Like, it's all made up, right? All these standards are made up in our head.
Also, like, one of the first conversations, I remember you telling me that this is kind of memorable. You told me, like, the first conversation you had with Jordan at that conference 8 months ago was that, when you joined that lead generation coaching program, you built all these lead gen sites, and you're at, $30K a month. And you kind of hit a point in your life where you're comfortable at $30K a month, and you ask Jordan, how can I push how can I go to the next level? And then Jordan tell you, go buy a house, go live in an expensive place, go get a wife that wants designer handbags, like increase your spend to push yourself. Like, you're just not like, go up your lifestyle a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Because the underlying thing is whether you necessarily, I think the idea is put yourself in a situation where that money, you stop rationalizing that money as okay money, because especially, and I think you would even agree with this, especially, when you're kind of my age, just turning into adulthood, like, you don't perceive that as a little amount. It's not like you don't perceive, I never thought I thought $30,000. I was, 22 at the time. And I don't have any, I didn't have any of those crazy things. Like, I like nice stuff. I like living well. I liked having money, but, I didn't have I don't, at that point in life, I didn't have a goal. I didn't want a Ferrari, right? That was not what I was seeking at that moment in time. So that money makes a lot of sense, right? When you're living cheap and you don't have, you can rationalize that income really quick. And I rationalized it because at that point, there's not one person in my family, as far back as you go, there's not one friend I had at that time, other than obviously some of the business people I'm around who even made remotely close to that. So, and I'm talking people in their 50s and 60s. So it's really easy to rationalize that number, right?
Right. So, right. I mean, maybe push into like higher and higher levels of income. That might not be for everybody, but for people like me and you, I mean, we just love the game of entrepreneurship. We love the game of making progress, right? Each and every year. Right. And that's part of the reason why. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I almost feel, and I've learned, I'm slowly coming to this kind of maturity and understanding of myself, that there's something about what could be deemed as a sickness or an addiction or or something like that. Like, to me, I've learned that no, instead of trying to kind of look at that as a bad thing, for certain people like us, like, we've channeled that in the business world and we love it, and that's what fuels us. Is there is that kind of addictive personality, and that's what makes some people tick, and obviously people like Dan, me, we have that. And yeah, it's about self-awareness. I wouldn't necessarily say that every single person needs to, go try to make as much money as humanly possible in business or whatever. But you got to figure out, the key is figuring out who you are. For some people, I would say maybe it's travel and maybe it's maxing out that one section or the other. For us, we're kind of on the extreme. We kind of like maxing out every category. I think for us, it's like finding out our potentials. It sounds like is the big driving force. Like, how much how much can you push it?
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that's why we gravitate to people like Jordan Belfort. And when you talk to someone like that, it's clear as day, he has that thing, that obsession, that to keep pushing to your potential. And that's part of the reason why when those people I feel are rare. Just because someone's a business owner, they're not looking to push it every year to the new levels, right? So when you meet someone like that, and that's someone that's like Jordan, that's at a way higher level than you, those people are hard to come by. And so it is valuable to be able to spend like quality one-on-one time with that person, just so that you can begin to understand like how he thinks, his values, how he operates his business day to day. Let's circle back to a little bit about that. Like, so you're spending time with them, for the weekend that you're there, and you were telling me you got a little bit more out of that event than some of these other people. Like, he took a liking to you, right? Because you also run, a sales team for the lead gen program, and you do have, 4 to 5 years experience doing that. And Jordan also has a sales team selling his, straight line persuasion. And as you were talking about business with them, there's a lot of different things that that their team wasn't doing. And so immediately you were able to go in there and have a high-level conversation with Jordan and provide value to him, right?
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it's really fascinating that even at that level, when you're talking to someone like Jordan, there's certain things that everyone has, certain things that they're 100% rock solid confident in. And there's certain things in my life, like, you're never going to cut those beliefs out with a chainsaw. Like, I'm so certain in them. And there's obviously things Jordan is super certain about. And what was really nice is that there was that really nice overlap where it was kind of that perfect blend where the things that Jordan was not confident about in his company and what he's doing, I was incredibly confident at. The things that I was not the most confident at, he was very confident at. And then there was a middle ground where we were both really confident in, which created the trust of okay, clearly we see eye to eye on certain things, and we disagree on certain things. And I don't know why I did it, honestly, but I think the thing that I didn't, and I swear this wasn't a strategy or anything, but I think when I started to disagree with things he said during that mastermind, when no one else would, I think that was that was where that kind of moment switched, and I ended up, instead of being there for 2 days, I ended up being there for a week. Is what ended up happening.
Okay, so you would disagree on Jordan on some points, and
on certain points.
Certain things. Which also goes to show that even a great entrepreneur like Jordan, we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? And a smart entrepreneur knows that. So when Jordan sees somebody that has strengths that he may not be an expert in, he's very quick to become the student and try to learn something from you, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it wasn't even, I don't think it was necessarily even meant to be, I didn't come into that mastermind to tell, that was never the intention, was to tell Jordan what to do. I think what was happening was he would discuss things with his staff who were there, the people who were running his business. And when I noticed things that were wrong, it was just one of those like things. I was like, wait, that's not how it should be run.
Just to give people some context, you've been working with Dan with the lead gen, helping Dan run the lead gen coaching program since 2015.
Right.
So that's where you have your experience of kind of running a coaching program and how to effectively. Right.
Yeah, a lot and on a lot of different fronts. I think sometimes people might look at me as, oh, am I at business sales? But then on another end, I've done video editing, for early projects. I've done, all the way from even support for things. I've built, I obviously have lead gen sites myself. So it's kind of interesting because I've kind of touched every part of the business. And then obviously with Dan, I get to see all the other things he owns, from multifamily to this and that. And so I think it's kind of nice when you have a lot of context of a lot of different things, and especially in the internet age, like a lot of times these things, I never thought something from one aspect of my life would actually carry into another part of the business, right?
Right.
That's what's great about skill sets. When you're really skilled, those skill sets show up in every area, even in places you wouldn't think they're applicable.
Right,
so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, also what's cool is about this weekend is not only are you talking to Jordan, but you're able to talk to his staff, and you're able to see hands-on how Jordan runs the business. Right. And I think that's something that more valuable to see in person than seeing Jordan at a seminar on on stage. Right. So you actually get to be behind the scenes and was there anything that stood out to you about his day-to-day, how he runs his team, how he's operating his business, that kind of you took away from?
Yeah. For starters, that guy he wakes up every day at 5 a.m.
Wow.
He goes to and he only sleeps. He's trained his mind to get sleep down to 3 to 4 hours, and that's not.
Wow.
Yeah. Which and by the way, this comes back to the self-awareness. Certain entrepreneurs, would not, there's certain entrepreneurs that they have to have their 8 hours of sleep, and talking all the way to, multi-billionaire status. I think people like Bill Gates still sleep 7 hours a night. But then there's other CEOs, like Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, who actually have trained their mind to sleep 4 to 5. Like they actually figured out a way to increase the quality of the sleep, so you can go for very short hours but get the equivalent of what would be 8 hours of sleep. So you get more deep sleep, right? So that was another thing that was crazy, because we would go all day till to really late at night, talking 2 a.m. and then 5 a.m. the guy's up like it's he slept for a year. And I'm just how in the world are you doing that? And so that was crazy. And to see that for a week straight, not missing a day. There was not one day where that broke pattern.
Right. So whereas most of those, whereas the event was only supposed to be for 2 nights, he actually, thought, well, there's this guy Shiv, I can learn a lot from him. Let me take him around with me for a little bit longer, right? Like a few days, or for up to a week. So now you're really really job shadowing him all day, every day, from morning till night.
Yeah, and it was also to he his I think it's his stepson Bowen who runs a lot of day-to-day operation and runs even some of the social media stuff. So it was really, I think he just wanted to it was just interesting getting to interact with all these different people in his business. It wasn't, it was, I think it was just one of those things where one thing about Jordan, and I've noticed this about a lot of successful people, is they like to surround themselves with people who have different perspectives in certain areas. And that's important that that not to have this mentality of, sometimes it's ego to say, hey, I make X dollars more, and so therefore, I'm not going to listen to someone. But it's hey, what areas do these people actually have an upper hand on, and are these areas that I'm weak on? And likewise, there's a lot areas that Jordan's really strong on, and so I think that's kind of where he has built a pretty good team that way, where his team kind of complements the things that he's not the greatest at. But his work ethic is ridiculous. I've never seen someone at that age, I think he's in his mid 50s, somewhere in his 50s, and I think 58, and he just to still work like he's never made a dollar is crazy.
What do you think his motivation comes from, or like what's his motivation? Do you think?
Yeah, he told me the biggest thing, and this is what he said, and I don't know if there's a deeper why that is private, that's not meant for the public, but the thing he did say was because of that past, the biggest thing that's driving him is to really prove that he can do it all again and do it properly, ethically, and like for his kids, like he wants to kind of amend those wrongs with everyone, right? And even people argue, oh, is he paying back people fast enough or whatever? Like he is paying people back from that period of time, and so like just all of those things, I think combined, it's pretty miraculous that way that he's still, that's his big thing. Is like to prove, to really like kind of to reprove to his kids that like, hey, I'm gonna do I can do it all again without going down that path.
Right. So, yeah. Now, a lot of his days spent like talking to his team? Like, does he get on the computer like for a while and work on stuff, or
it's like, a lot of it
on the run all the time, meeting people, or
lots of meetings, which is also really funny. It was really funny. I was bumping into like Lewis Howes and like other people, Brad Lee from Lightspeed, and like all these people. I'm like, oh, no way,
right. He was doing podcasts while you were there, right? With Bradley. Yeah, Bradley,
the Lightspeed. Yeah, he runs a big online learning platform that Grant Cardone, a bunch of big entrepreneurs use. But yeah, so it was. I think the thing that really shocked me was how genuinely well connected Jordan was. Like, we even went to this little casual kind of dinner place. It's kind of an interesting place. It's like snack food and like wine and cheese. And I'm there, and literally a bunch of friends of Jordan's. And one of them was a guy who I actually recognized because I'm very much into the Silicon Valley culture and technology. And I was like, oh my God, that's the guy who spearheaded Next Computers with Steve Jobs, right? Like I'm talking a guy worth hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars and considered a cultural genius. And I met him. And the funny part was he actually made a book on how to solve a Rubik's Cube that I bought as a kid. Like just out of the blue, like, oh, I know exactly who you are. I bought your Rubik's Cube book, and he told me, I sold 36 million copies of that book. And like,
and you were telling me about this briefly the other day. Like, how much did he make off that book?
Yeah, it was literally like 60, 70 million bucks.
Yeah, he made 60, 70 million off of that book, How to Solve a Rubik's Cube book.
Yeah, and don't I don't quote me on exact numbers. Like this is just ballparking it. I talked to him for a long time because he was talking. It was funny. We were talking about, because he lives in LA now. We're talking about like Northern California versus Southern California. What shifted in Silicon? We went into this crazy conversation, and almost to the point where halfway through it, I'm like, why are you even talking to me? Like in the grand scheme of things, like you're like like I don't understand.
Extremely high level person.
Right. And so that was awesome. And it was funny. He gave me his number. He's like, hey, if you know anyone who's good at, Java, like text them over. I'm looking for these, full stack developers. I'm like, okay. So it was just interesting. Everyone in Jordan's life is just fascinating to me. Like all the people across the board, even like, and obviously the ultimate thing, which I'm sure there's going to be a photo of it in the article you're posting this to, but the photo from David Yarrow. David Yarrow is a name I also recognize. Like he is considered an unbelievable, like one of the best wildlife animal photographers of all time. And so like that, like Cameron Dallas, who's a big YouTube and social media influencer, has millions upon millions of followers. Like he's in the shot, like famous models are in the shot. Like all these, everyone in his life is a big deal. Like
and you got on the front of that picture too, which is nuts.
Yeah, that was definitely crazy, because there was legitimately 40. There's that photo. You can't really tell from the photo itself, but none of that was photoshopped. Like what I think that's a big thing for people to understand. Like what makes David Yarrow phenomenal was that photo was caught in real time. So there was, cannons for confetti. There's cannons for money to be sprayed in the air. There was an actual wolf that obviously they're trained to not like go wild, and they're young wolves, but there's a wolf trainer, so they had to get a wolf to stand in position correctly. And there's all these moving components, and there's 40, 50 people in it. So I don't know why, as the only one who actually wasn't scheduled for that shot, I was just a random who was with Jordan, to be dragged into it was super fun. And then to be dragged into the front, pretty close to the front of it, I found that it was pretty hilarious to me. So definitely probably need to print that out and put it somewhere.
Was that entire photo taken, you said, real time, or some parts of that photo was taken separately and assembled together, right?
So the photo was taken in real time. The only thing that I don't know if he ended up doing it. He said he got the shot, but what they did is they did it all. They went for real time is what we went for, and we spent literally 4 hours staying still while they got this wolf, and they tried to get the confetti and money and everything just right. So it was caught in real time. The only thing that he said that might have to happen is because we went to 4 different wolves. That's another thing. It was because they couldn't get the wolves to like look at the camera head on. We were struggling so much with that. And obviously every time you take a take, you have to clean up all the confetti, all the money. Everyone has to regain positions. You have to get get the wolf back in. And it was this huge annoying process. And so, the only thing that might have happened is they might have merged another real-time photo with just the wolf to get the wolf right if everyone else looked good in another sequence. But it was actually shot live. Like it wasn't shot where there was no green screens. There was no thing where they're going and saying, okay, we're going to just shoot a photo of a wolf and some other location and Photoshop that in. Like all of that happened. And which is another example of very high level, which is another example of, wow, these people are really high level. David Yarrow is on a whole other playing field when he does photography shoots. That was a crazy set. That was nutty. The end, and how many things you don't see. There's a whole marching band in the back, like trombones and all these things. You can barely see it, but like that level of detail, even something that you can't really see properly in that shot. I know how much work went into that in real life. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you spent a whole week with him, including photo shoot, meeting his friends. Some of them are really famous that you recognized. That just goes to show, like you made that investment, and now you met all these people, and Jordan is now calling you from time to time about his business, right?
Yep.
You kind of built a personal relationship with Jordan.
Yeah, it's really funny too, because I think especially with like his tech friends, like the guy from Next, or these other people, I think it's kind of the thing. I think everyone I'm kind of this weird middle bridge between like I don't know, between like business people and like the arts and sciences or something. But I'm kind of like in certain cases where he's like, I don't know what the hell this means. I'm kind of like his translator every now and then on certain things. But yeah, he texts every once in a blue moon. But pretty. It is weird.
Questions. Yeah, that is crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and he's actually awesome. Like he's really really I think people might think, oh, because you see him on stage or whatever. No, he's really really relatable, easy to talk to,
personable.
Personable, and he also listens, which is another thing that people don't see through the gaze. Like he actually wants input. Hey, what's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on that? Like it's not just, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do and do it. And one of the things that was really really insightful was, and I think the whole mastermind kind of got a lot of value out of it, was you don't hire smart people or talented people or whoever to tell them what to do. You might, obviously they might have roles or responsibilities, but the idea in business is, especially if you're trying to get to the next level, you want to surround yourself with really smart people who tell you what to do, right? Because they are so confident in those domains. Like, and that's the other thing I noticed with Jordan is there's a lot of people that he surrounds himself with, and those people tell him, hey, listen, Jordan, I'm never going to argue with you about certain things about sales, influence, the things that he's good at. No one's going to argue with him on. But hey, when it comes to if you have the best, let's say the best email marketer in the room, yeah, but they're going to tell you how to do emails, and Jordan's not going to chime in on how to write a good email or copy it, right? Yeah. And that was a really cool dynamic to see, that he knows when to shut his mouth. And
in order to run a successful business today online, you need sales skills and you need marketing skills. Clearly, Jordan is really good at. He's the expert go-to for sales. Yeah. There's this whole other domain of marketing. Mm-hmm.
I forgot the biggest thing, and I can't believe I forgot this. The big reason why he's that he keeps texting me. When that first event happened 8-9 months ago, the one thing I told him is you're making a huge mistake not having a podcast. And he did the podcast.
Oh, really?
So that was the big that was the big one. So and now obviously it drives so much organic traffic to his brand. And I said, you're and in fact, one of the things that he's going into, I can't, talk too deep about this, but he wants to go build like a podcast network is kind of the next move. And now podcasting is actually one of the biggest business drivers in his business for speaking gigs. So I think that was like a big, yes. And I'm not saying that, I'm sure a lot of people told him that, but I think it was just another one of those like tick marks, like, okay, you were right. Yeah, that was a good insight.
Did he recall that from that?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's actually where we started talking. He was just like, yeah, man. And then he started talking about all the things now. Like now he's obsessed with podcats. In fact, he got rid of some of the other content he does on a weekly basis. He did something called like Whiteboard Wednesday.
For people listening, his podcast is called, what was it?
I think it's called The Wolf's Den. Yeah. And he has, he's getting some real guests on that thing. Like it's really amazing guests.
Oh yeah, and incredible guests.
Yeah, and that was also another funny kind of moment where now he's doing the podcast. I'm sitting there with Brad. Bradley's doing an episode with him, and it was just funny to say, wow, like that. I've always thought he should do a podcast, and now he has a podcast. Like, and it's actually really a really freaking good podcast. So
yeah, I mean, with all of this conversation, just goes to show the power of having a network, right? Like if you're stuck in a 9-to-5 and you want to become a entrepreneur, like just learning from a book is not enough. Like you need to begin surrounding yourself with like other entrepreneurs. So there's just so many nuances that you learn from others while talking to others, which is what the lead gen coaching program provides, right? Like we do these live events. We have people every day talking on Facebook. It's not just step-by-step like a program that you follow. There's so many different nuances in an internet business in terms of marketing and sales that you learn just through networking and talking with others. And, you investing all this money to, go meet with like Jordan, like you can't just put into like paper like all the different things you learn. There's all these different nuances that you learn throughout this this past week that you spent with them, so I think you, even now you're motivating me to like go stretch out my circle of people of entrepreneurs, like meet other entrepreneurs out there, because that is how, like, if I look past my past 5 years in entrepreneurship, those are the times when I meet new people that got other competency in other areas, and I learn from them. Like I leveled up each and every time I made those move to meet other people.
Yeah. So. And it's important too that it doesn't mean, when you go to I think the important thing for people to understand is when you go to any mastermind or any circles, or you invest in yourself or whatever you do, it doesn't mean that you have to now listen to 100% of what they say. It's usually just a few things, and usually it's that and as you get more and more successful, it's a less and less percent. It's probably 3% of that mastermind is going to make up 90% of the growth for me going into 2020. It's literally a few points in three almost a week spending with Jordan. It was like I could have, it was probably 10 minutes of actual conversation spread across 7 days that actually mattered. Right. Yeah. But those 10 minutes are worth a lot, which comes down to what people don't understand is another thing that's so important for people to understand is like, whatever, it's kind of the what goes around comes around. Like you don't want to you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you don't go and invest. You're not pushing yourself. You're not going and taking risks. You're not going and doing the hard things in your life and in business to do things that are uncomfortable. And then you wonder in business why, you go send free leads to a business owner, and that business owner doesn't want to move forward with you. And you go, why is it that people, or they keep trying to delay you? They keep trying to like waste your time. It's like, well, because do you waste time? Do you go and schedule calls, and do you go and look at businesses, and you try to gather every bullet point and every bit of information, and you never do anything with it? You never take action. You never, and then it's like, well, then what are people going to do to you? People, like I talk about this all the time, where, when I grew up, my parents, and, when you come from immigrant parents, and I know you and I share that similarity. My parents were, they would coupon clip. We'd go to the car dealership. You'd spend, 8 hours in that car dealership to go, save an extra $10 a month on your monthly payment, and anything to just like wear it down. And one of my weird kind of goals was I went and emailed Audi, and I said, here it is, like tell me the terms. And then I just went, and I was like the fastest car sale they had, because to me that was like a mental thing for me. And like there's certain things like that where
a lot of this is mental, right?
It's all mental, and it's we say, and hence why I spent the $15,000. I was like, why do I? In reality, I wouldn't even, like, truth be told, $15,000 wouldn't make a difference one way or the other. But why am I holding so much value to this? It's because I think 2 days, and obviously, it worked way better. So I think that's the big thing with people is just to understand that, like, we tend to make up a lot more fear around stuff.
There's so much, people have so much fear about, pulling a trigger on a $15,000 investment for, a weekend, right? But if you're able to pull the trigger and break down some of those fears, you're going to operate in business a lot more fearlessly in other areas, all across that business. Whereas, the person that's timid, that never pulls the trigger on even a smaller investment, that person, even if he gets into that business, he's going to operate, he's just going to move very, very slowly. There's so many other decision making that's required in a business. If you're that, hesitant on one decision, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And you're going to move that much more slowly on everything else. So I think that's one of the things that, I learned, me becoming an entrepreneur, is how quickly some of these people make decisions. Like being around Dan for the past year, living next 5 minutes away from him, or I'm sure you saw the same thing in Jordan. I mean, these people make decisions quickly and fast.
Oh yeah. Actually, I saw during this thing where, because he's, moving places, commit to a $25,000 a month rent for a penthouse temporarily. He had to commit for a year, but it's like just while he's like moving offices and moving houses, he's like, I just need a place that's central to Beverly Hills, and and like $25,000 a month for a tiny, just like it was water. Like he's like, hey, cool, let's do it. And it's like insane levels of dollar signs, and it was as simple as texting someone, let's just do it. Here's my, how do we pay? And that's what you start realizing at the bigger levels. I mean, imagine just to put in perspective, imagine if, you're a big company like Microsoft or Apple or Dell or whatever, and they're making a critical decision for a product. Hey, we need to order the new glass for the new iPhone. Oh, dude, $15,000, man, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. Let's really think. Like, you couldn't operate. To them, their thresholds of what's considered a big decision are way higher. To them, maybe $100 million is probably where they're like, okay, let's take a millisecond to think about it. But anything below that is automatic approval. They couldn't care less.
Because someone like Jordan, he's confident in his ability to produce. All right, if he overspends 1 month, he's confident the next month that he can work harder or exercise his skill sets to go produce more, go make more money. Which is why people need to have, there's multiple muscles people need to develop, but the number one muscle that most people don't even try to develop is the producing
muscle of how do you create things that are monetizable in the market? How do you create things like passive income, right? Build these sites. How do you go learn skill sets, and how do you learn how to actually make the art of actually creating income? Because so many people, are stuck in this thing where they don't know how to create income. And when you don't know how to change your top line, which is most of America, well, the only thing you can do is you can change your expenses, but there's not a lot of wiggle room. And also, not only is there not a lot of wiggle room in that game, that comes with a lot of anxiety, fear, because it comes down to scarcity and the truth of everything in every department of life. I've come to learn this, and I know it sounds stupid because it seems common sense, but I've come to learn this now more than ever. Abundance is the key to winning in anything. And anything in life is you got to put yourself in a situation where you have an excess of access. So when you know you can make more money, money comes all around you. There's ways to make deals. There's always opportunity. You're not worried about a little hiccup here or there. People worry about, tax. I got a tax bill. Well, if you make enough income and who cares about any bill, really?
Right.
Right. And so a lot of misinformation about money. And that's the other thing that I think was really, really big looking at these people. And I'm talking people at this level, at this much net worth, and they're going all in every month. I'm talking so to the edge. And look, everyone go to the percentage that they're comfortable with. But I'm talking people who $500 million a year business, has less than 10 grand in his checking account. Much gets reinvested. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You were telling me about how much Jordan reinvests every month in marketing, like Facebook ads. Do you call how much he's literally spending pretty much a lot of what he makes back into the business, right?
Yeah, and I think every certain way, obviously with the podcast, how do you get the best guests to show up? How do you get the best? Everything for Jordan is about, hey, it's the same thing. I want to get the best of the best. One thing I like about Jordan, he does nothing small. When Jordan creates a podcast, he's not going to do it, recording off an iPhone mic with some no-name guest. No, he's going to do it with the biggest, influencers, the biggest names. He's going to do it with great mics. He plays that game. Everything he does is about how do I level up.
Just go all in on all the projects that he's doing.
Yeah. That's the thing, and all the mastermind people. That's what I learned. Actually, I have a kind of an embarrassing confession to make. I probably Liquid had more money than a lot of that room who makes over $10 million a year.
Yeah, wow.
It was that ridiculous. It was like that. I mean, some of these people obviously we're talking hyper growth, so all of us getting reinvested. But that level of disgusting. I'm like, wow, what? I couldn't fathom when they were talking how much reserves and stuff. They're like, why do I need reserves? I'm confident in our business. Yeah. They're like, I have enough for a month. If worst case comes to worst, I'll call a friend and I'll get money to borrow money to tide me for a few bad months. But that was that's how balls to the walls these guys are going each and every day. So it's it's mental too. They don't want to cushion the emergency fund. One of the guys who was really, really wealthy says the emergency fund, what it does is it puts you in a state where you think there's an emergency. He's like, why would I live with this thought that I can always go, I'm good. I can go back to X, Y, Z. And he's like, instead, I know when worst comes, I know what my business is worth. If I ever if that day ever comes, when you have a good network of people, when you have business and assets, there's always ways around money. It comes back to the abundance. When you're abundant, that you can always figure it out and create and get, then you're not trying to reserve. Why are you trying to preserve anything?
Yeah, that what you just said is really kind of opening things up in my mind because, as we're in November right now, so we have about a month and a half before the new year. So, I do have funds that I can reinvest more aggressively into my business to, reduce the taxes for this year. So, I mean, I totally agree. Too many of us play a little too safe at times, and it can stunt our growth. And when it stunts your growth, then you become less motivated, right? Personally, because you're not seeing that exponential growth in your business. So just to keep the excitement level going at times, you sometimes have to just go all in, like be more aggressive.
Right. Well, and it comes down to that understanding of self, and some of those people, I think in that mastermind, those people were very self-aware. Here's the truth: a lot of that group. What I really appreciated was they understood that logically, that's a little silly. Logically, it's a little silly to be that down to the wire when you make that much money. But mentally and spiritually, it makes all the sense in the world, because now you're still have the same hunger as a broke 20-year-old. Even though you're 55 years old, you still feel like, oh my God, I need to go fight. I need to go in the marketplace. And that was the thing for me. Business is so much more. Logic is very important for certain things, but living in logic is hell. You got to force yourself to in environments where you have no choice but to succeed. And these people create environments where they couldn't go and just say, you know what, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna chill out and I'm just gonna just go sit on the beach for six months. Some people build a life around that, and you can. And all these people, none of these people in this room need to work. Like, let's just make all these people can sell their companies tomorrow and have more money than anyone needs to live a good life.
Yeah, they can retire and be on the beach, but I mean, there's only so many pina coladas you can drink on the beach before you get bored.
Yeah, this is what I've always believed too. Like, you should create passive income, and you should put yourself in a situation where you don't have to work, but you should be working. Like, it's just, you should be doing stuff. You should be keeping active.
Producing is what's exciting, right, for these individuals, so. Yeah, I mean, just to go back on redlining, I mean, it's the same deal with like fighters that make it, right, that become champions, and now they got all the money in the world. There's a famous quote that says, it's very hard to wake up at 5 a.m. and do cardio and go on a run when you wake up in satin sheets. I think
100%.
There's a lot of truth to that. So it's the same deal in business as well. Like, I can look back when I created surplus of income in my bank account. Yeah, there are times where you get a little lazy, you get a little stagnant, a little complacent. And again, surrounding yourself with higher level people that are investing much bigger numbers every month in business, that actually puts a fire under your belly, I'm sure, that I need to go bigger. I can't just relax,
Yeah, so. 100%, 100%, and understanding that it's the fear. It's once again, so much of it is so made up, and that, and a lot of actually fear in a lot of ways is tied to ego, because what is ego? I don't want to go backwards, right? I don't want to face what if I have to take a temporary decrease in life, and my friends and family get to see it. That's the ego that these people have learned to not care about. Is that, look, I don't care. The guy is like, people who got rich, lost it all, get rich again. That ego of being so afraid of what if, it's what makes everyone just live in mediocrity, because everyone wants to live in this life where, hey, I'm not really ruffling feathers. Like, the truth be told, when you start to really go to big numbers, like, there's a reason why successful people all live in the same zip codes. It's because you can't. It does create ripples. Like, you're not going to be able to keep and this is maybe getting too advanced for something as simple as just go build a few lead gen sites, like, which is what most people should do, is just get a few bits of passive income. But on the big scale, you're not going to be able to keep your same friends at a certain level of business success. Like, I know that's hard for people to hear, but it's just the truth. Like, there's friends I can't be friends with anymore, and I just can't. I can't do it. Like, it's impossible.
The levels of think it becomes so disparate. It becomes so different from what the average 9 to 5 kind of people operate and think about money. That it's just kind of hard to relate with certain people on that subject. But let's let's end with this. So for, you got a lot of inspiration, a lot of motivation, meeting with Jordan. And you are, and myself included, we are taking like steps to up our ante a little bit, right? Like we're moving to downtown San Francisco, which is gonna, double, quadruple our rent money every month.
I'm spending more. Yeah, we both had this revelation. We're both spending more on rent for an apartment than we made just a few years ago total in a month. Like that's pretty crazy.
and for me, like when I started the lead gen business, my apartment rent was $500 a month.
Yeah.
So and then I moved to downtown Detroit, which was $2,000 a month, and then I moved to California, which is like $3,000 a month. Still, it's just like every time I moved to a bigger rent place, like my income also went up. There's something subconsciously that I know I need to push to afford the higher level lifestyle. And so you've seen it in yourself as well. We're taking the next step. Now we're moving to downtown San Francisco, which rent doesn't come cheap there. And also just another thing of San Francisco does have more higher level people
that's
day to day.
Number one. Just to understand cause and effect, for me, number one thing is especially for me, and you too, like there's not, especially when, for me, in my age group, I don't meet a lot. I don't have people who, it's not normal in any environment for me to meet people who I can like relate to on my age group, right? Which is why like Dan, you, Simon, like these are the people who I relate to. San Francisco has more, it's more common. It still is not going to be a lot, but it's more normal for high levels of thinking and entrepreneurship and action. And the idea is that when you surround yourself in a place like San Francisco, where in San Francisco, making $200,000 a year, which is insane income anywhere else in America, is barely making it out there, making it.
Right.
That's amazing. That level, that your average run of the mill person to live a half decent, low middle class life there has to make $200,000 a year, which would get you a mansion in North Carolina. There's something about that thing. What are these people? These people must be on something else, to rationalize. You couldn't even rationalize $200,000 a year in San Francisco.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, again, like not everybody's into pushing their potential. There's a lot of internet marketers that have moved to Thailand or Bali, like lesser rent, like you can, have seemingly on the outside like a cool lifestyle with less money, but I mean, there's people like Jordan that's living in LA, in like the most expensive part of LA. We're also moving to the Bay. I mean, I like that. That's more my thing. I like going into tougher environment. Maybe it has something to do with me, like moving from Japan at age 9 and moving to the U.S. and like being the underdog. I like being the underdog and going into a tougher environment and like rising to the occasion. And I like that climb, right? So, and I think you're like the same way too. I don't believe, it comes down to, look, everyone do what makes them happy. And this is the truth. Like that's the thing that's important for people to note, that this is what makes, the people like Ippei, myself, tick. But I don't want people listening to this think that everyone has to, this is what needs to happen. I mean, we probably have hundreds of students who are actually considered happy, if you can measure it on a graph, really, really happy, maybe even happier than us, who they build, have 5-6 sites, a few $1,000s a month, it supplements their income, or maybe they get to a certain number where they quit their job and they get to spend really quality family time. Understand it's where you are in life too, for us who, single, no kids. And for me, kind of just starting out, basically, I mean, being only 6 years of actual like career, really working in the business world, to me, it's about how much can you push it. This is because there's nothing to lose for us. I mean, it's not like no kid goes hungry if something goes wrong in our business, And we just want to see how far we can take this thing.
And there's some, San Francisco, I will say, we got to end with one little funny story. So I was telling Ippei about the Bay Area because I've always been, a fan of technology and high levels of thought. and people who like Elon Musk and things like that who push the envelope. And I was telling Ippei about how even just like people's choices in watches, like successful people in watches, because you go to LA and someone will buy, if someone kind of did well in business, they'll go buy like a gold shiny, a Rolex would be your go-to, or maybe a Hublot. And I said in the Bay Area, they buy what's called like a Patek or Patek Philippe, depending on how you say it. But these watches are literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they look like ordinary watches. And we go to an Apple store, and this guy's in a wheelchair, really old guy, probably 70s, and we're just talking. He talks about how he used to work in marketing, and so obviously we started having these crazy conversations. And he clearly is a guy who made it incredibly wealthy and successful, who this is just his retired thing to pass time. And he mentions his watch collection. He's mentioning, I have this watch called the Nautilus, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's a $300,000 watch, and I was like, welcome to the Bay Area.
Shocking.
Like just shocking. A run of the mill person who's like working at an Apple store to pass time because he's old, and like that level of thing.
He was the guy that was just like giving us my iPhone and doing the doing the transaction, and he owns these like $200,000, $300,000 watches. I'm like, well, Shiv kind of told me about the Bay Area, and I'm kind of seeing it in real life.
Yeah. And watches that you couldn't make up. Like this is really in depth. Like you couldn't make up these types of watches or the specific spec number or the years if you didn't know what you're talking about. So it wasn't like someone who was just trying, some crazy person making up a story. Like it was very obvious the way he was talking.
Specific models that he was mentioning.
Yeah. And even career-wise, he was giving marketing input and talking about certain things he learned in marketing that you could tell clearly understood and stuff incredibly. And that's what I love about, which comes down to too, like you gotta, it's the combination of everything. They say it's who you know, but the thing they don't mention is, well, why would people want to know you, right? So you gotta, say you're the 5 friends you hang around with. Well, what do you bring to the table for those 5 successful people to want you to be in their circle? Because if you're the average of the 5 friends you're around, which I believe in, well, then, you're going to bring down someone else's average. If you have no skill sets, you're not improving yourself. You're not, doing the things necessary in your life you need to do. Well, you're actually ruining that deviation. So that's why people have to be improving themselves to get those people to want to talk to you. I know do you kind of agree? Like
I agree. There's a reason why people, when they buy Lambos and these supercars, there's these circles that now you have access to. There's these like races, different places you can go with that car. Now you have access to different higher level people, and there's like people can actually network with that supercar. So I mean, that's what this is the whole topic of what we're talking about, is like, continue to push yourself, invest in skills, invest in new networks of people. Lead gen coaching program provides a lot of that. Like now you can have access to people like myself and Shiv and other high level people in the program. But don't forget that, like, if you really want to go to your potential, like if you get to a certain income, don't be afraid to like pick up and move if you need to, or like go to a bigger city. Every time I've done that, I've seen exponential growth in my income and my levels of think. It's not just income, it's just different topics that you can talk about with people that will begin to shift as you surround with other successful people. You just begin to learn a whole new, like, it's almost like a whole new language that you learn, and that you can relate with these higher level people. And imagine then after that, going into these like networking events, investing in masterminds, and then actually going to talking to someone like Jordan or, Grant Cardone or of the world, or other high level people, and you can actually speak to them at their level or approximating their level. So,
right. Even, exactly. It's all about, at the end of the day, it's about being the best version of you that you believe. I think every person has deep in everyone's subconscious, everyone knows what they're not really fulfilling. Like I think everyone deep down knows, and then it's just, are you actually are you actually doing anything with that information? You know, if you, and the moving thing, man, like I've moved every 3 years my entire childhood. I've lived in India, you know, and you same with you. And, you know, I see the same thing with location. Like we hold certain things so weirdly as high priority, like living in a town that doesn't serve you anymore. You know, and you know, and for, you know, it's a little different. I get it if you have kids and they go to school and everything's settled. I'm not here to tell people to do change, but for me, moving is so clear. I mean, even we spent like 2 weeks in San Francisco. It's so clear energy wise how different it was.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what am I doing in a suburb? Like I couldn't even fathom, like why am I living in a place where everyone here's quit, everyone here's settled.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
and not as a bad thing, but everyone in this neighborhood, you know, this is their life, their entire life is in their home. All the money they've ever had is they put in this home, and they want to live for the next 30 years. I'm like, yeah, I'm just getting started. Like, why am I living in a place where everyone's ending?
Energetically, it's kind of an opposite of what we're trying to go after. So, yeah, I think that's a great place to end it. Thanks for all the insights, Shiv, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Awesome. Take care. Bye bye.